You look great.
For an old man, not bad.
Hey, Milton. um, so I just, like I said, I would like to just get some just history to keep with the car. Obviously, we could maybe talk about the wagon first.
Right.
You could tell us a little bit about how you came to own it, and then your ownership with it, and then anything in particular that you feel you want to mention about it. Just go for it. Whatever comes to mind, really.
Okay. Well, how do I start? In 1983, I had a young family. I'm now 83 years old, so you can figure that one out. But at that point, we only had 3 of our 4 children. But I decided that it'd be nice to have a station wagon. And then I happened to see an advertisement for a Mercedes station wagon. And I remember going down to the only Mercedes dealership in Toronto at that time on Bay Street, just north of Bloor Street, which are 2 major streets in Toronto. And it was just a small little dealership. And they had a brochure for the wagon that I was looking for. But it was very pricey. It was, as I recall it, it was in the mid-50s, the mid-50,000 range. And gave it a lot of thought. And by pure coincidence, I opened up the Toronto Star in the spring of 1983, and I looked at the want ads. In those days, there was no such thing as Kijiji or Auto Trader, etc. If you wanted to get information about a car, you looked at the want ad section of the Toronto Star, which there is still some print for ads, but it's very outdated. Sure enough, there was an ad for a 1983 Mercedes station wagon. And I called up, replied to the ad, and it turned out that the gentleman who I spoke to is a doctor from, I can't remember the town now, but in Germany. And Canada and Germany, which I'm sure they still have the treaty today, which is called settlers' effects. A settler is a person who comes from one country to another. And the arrangement between Canada and Germany was that if somebody was emigrating from Canada to set up a business or a profession in Germany, he could bring his personal belongings, furniture, and a car tax-free. And a similar provision was contained in the deal with Germany that someone coming to leave Germany and move to Canada, he could bring the same personal effects, including a car. And sure enough, the ad that I called, I spoke to a settler. And this gentleman had emigrated from, I can't remember the town in Germany.
I think your phone's ringing.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
but it probably is in the notes in the files that I gave you where he was from. But he was going to set up a medical practice in Toronto, and he was bringing a 1983 Mercedes turbo diesel wagon, which, I mean, you couldn't have gotten a better coincidence. Sure enough, I went to see the car, and it was the identical color to the one that I saw in the dealership in downtown Toronto. And the price was about almost $22,000 less. And actually, the leather interior was a very expensive option when you're buying it from Toronto. Needless to say, I bought the car, and I've enjoyed it ever since. Looked after the car, and it certainly looked after me for many years. And I just wish Rami as much joy and happiness that I had with that car, and to get the same satisfaction out of the car that my family certainly had the benefit of. And I know that the car is going to be in good hands, and I'm sure it'll be looked after the way a classic like that should be looked after. And all the very best to you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Milton. That was great. Yeah, that was perfect.
Well, it says some of the history.
Yeah. And you were telling me before that the settler, I guess, the settler that brought it over, that was just his way of bringing over something of value that he could then sell for some profit.
Exactly.
So, and he never actually owned and drove the car. He was just somebody who...
When I got the car, it had like less than 1,000 kilometers on it.
Yeah, so a new car, basically.
It was a brand new car, yes.
Wow.
He took it off the ship.
Yeah.
I met him virtually. He was advertising in advance.
Yeah.
When he was arriving, and I reached him, and
yeah,
I'm sure that when you'll go through the file, you'll see the notes of that as well.
Yeah.
Probably he's even got his name.
Yeah. Great. And then I guess maybe if you want to talk a little bit about the sedan too.
Well, certainly, but not the same history there though with the sedan. It's just that when I heard about the car, I'll just tell you what I was going to say. I bought the car when it was about 3 or 4 years old at that point.
Okay.
And it already had, I don't remember the mileage, but the file will show that as well. I mean, I've got the records from the day I bought the car.
Yeah.
But the bottom line with that car was it was the identical color. And it made a lot more sense to have that car as an everyday driver than the wagon. The wagon was good when I had the family and all the stuff that we would carry around. I remember one time with the wagon, a friend was, I'm of the Jewish faith, and at this time of year, in late September, early October, one of our customs is to build what is called like a temporary home outside your backyard. And that home is made out, if you go around in this neighborhood, you'll still see what's called a sukkah, S-U-C-H-A-H. And it's a temporary home where you're expected to have a meal and have say a prayer in honor of that particular, it's a festive occasion, and it's all in recognition of harvest and bringing in of food, etc. But to build that sukkah, because it's temporary, it was made out of 4x8 plywood sheets. And I remember one time a friend came to me, I need to get all these sheets over to my house. And he borrowed my station wagon, and because it had the rack. And they tied on perfectly. So
yeah,
it's I don't think I've ever used other than that. That's the only time I've ever used it.
The rack on the wagon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was there.
Yeah. You told me last time when I was here that nobody aside maybe I think your son once ever drove that wagon aside from you.
Well, my wife did occasionally.
Your wife drove that car occasionally, yeah.
Very rarely.
Yeah.
But she might have driven. My son, he took one long drive with that car.
Yeah.
And he's a very solid citizen. So. But I'm 99% the driver of that car.
Yeah. That shows. And the carekeeper.
Well, I think I was a good carekeeper.
Yeah, it shows, definitely. I mean, the photos and
Well, I just want to, so you'll have a permanent record. Continue to use the baby oil on the leather.
Yeah.
And continue to get oiled oil from an engine with a good spray gun and spray the undercarriage. And the car will go as long as you want it to go.
Yeah, I believe it. Got it. Cool. Anything else you want to share? Any particular stories that you have on either car that you wanted to include?
Huh.
Any fond memories of either one of them? I mean, maybe the wagon, if you want to just talk about the wagon.
Well, the sedan was just a beautiful car, but there was nothing special about that.
Yeah.
But the wagon was well used when it was first new. I mean, I have 10 grandchildren, so And there was times when we could get a lot of people in the car.
You think you had 10 kids in there at once?
No, I don't think we ever had 10 kids, but there were times when one of my daughter-in-laws would be carrying an infant son in the car, so there would be, instead of 7 or 8, there sometimes as many as 9 people in the car. But it served us very well, and
Any long
other
trips?
than what the record will show, that I blew the motor, and no one to this day ever knows why it happened. But the bottom line is that the car runs better than it ever did.
Yeah.
After that, it's peppier.
Yeah.
The only other story I'd like to tell you, so this is a true story. When I first got the car, I loved the car, but the bottom line is I found it to be a big, heavy car with no get up and go. So at a point, I went to the Mercedes dealer at Bay and Bloor, where I originally was going to buy a car, and they were not happy to see me with the car that I didn't buy from them, but they were nice about it. And I said, I love the car, but I have one problem. He says, what's the problem? I says, well, I just find that it just does not have good performance. Now, this is some 30 odd years ago, so I was still a relatively young man. And he said to me, well, you just got to be patient. You got to let diesels are known to get better with age, and you got to let the car break in. So I says, what's reasonable? I says, at that time, maybe the car had anywhere from 7 to 8, 9, maybe 10,000 kilometers on it. He says, it'll start to really show a difference in performance when it has 200,000 kilometers. These were his words, and I looked at him, and at that point, I was still a relatively young man, which meant that I would have to live a long, long time. I said, I don't know if I'll ever live that long, but I did. And I enjoyed the car for all the years that I've had the car. And I know it's going to be in good hands. And if it's looked after the way I looked after it, that car will go another 20 years with no problem at all.
Yeah, well, you put well beyond 200,000 kilometers on there.
Oh.
Twice over, so it should be twice as good as what he had originally thought it was going to do.
That's right. No, but the performance did. But the irony is, when I blew the engine, and when that engine was rebuilt, the performance was even better.
Yeah.
Which is ironic. I mean, now that car will keep up with any car from out of pickup. Yeah. When it was new, I mean, it felt like you were driving a tank. It was that solid, but it wasn't that fast. But as it broke in, it served me well for a long time. So I just wish you good luck with the car and enjoy it. And it'll only become recognized as a classic car down the road.
Yeah, for sure.
I wish you the best of luck with it.
Thank you, Milton.